Hey NICA athletes, Coach Jason here to talk about bike fitting today. And we're here in the Excel Physical Therapy Bike Fitting Studio. And I'm here with Ida here, one of the NICA athletes. And I'm going to be going over the basics of bike fitting. So what is bike fitting? Bike fitting is basically how you're positioned on the bike. And it can really maximize your performance with racing and with riding, as well as maximize your comfort and decrease injury. So while we definitely want to make sure that our bike is in top working shape with looking at the brakes, the drivetrain, and your suspension system, we also want to make sure our fit is dialed in. So today I'm going to go over just a couple basics that are easy to do at home, and then we can look at some other videos later on, maybe on some more advanced pieces of bike fitting. So with the bike fit, it's all about the contact points on the bike. So we have 5 contact points on a mountain bike. We have where our hands are in contact with the brakes, where our feet are in contact with the pedals, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then where our butt is in contact with the saddle or the seat. And where we want to start is where your feet are in contact with the pedals. So Ida here is riding flats like most of you do, but the same principle will go for if you're also riding clipless. And where you want to be, and Ida, I'm going to have you go ahead and stop here, is if we put this marker here on her shoe, right where basically the end of your little toe is, where it's coming into your foot, that's called your 5th metatarsal head, and we want your foot to, that dot, to be right in line with the center of your pedal spindle. So she could actually move her foot back just a little bit, and so that the ball of your foot is just in front of the pedal spindle there, and that's going to be a good position to have your foot on your pedals for both control, but as well as performance, so you can really push through and generate a lot of power. If this was a clipless pedal, so where you're clipped in, you'd want your cleat in line with that dot. Then the next thing that we're going to look at in terms of bike fitting is the saddle position, in terms of how high the saddle is. So I'm just going to ride here, and you can see while she's riding, she has just a slight bend at the bottom of her knee. When we're doing bike fitting here in the Excel Bike Fitting Studio, we actually take measurements, but for purposes here, just to simplify things, we just want a slight bend at the bottom of the knee to the point where your pelvis or your hips aren't rocking back and forth. If your hips are rocking back and forth, that's going to put too much strain on your back, as well as too much strain on where you're sitting on the saddle and cause a lot of issues. So Ida's in a pretty good position here, maybe a little bit on the high side. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you stand up, please. And we're going to take a look at what looks like if the saddle's too low. So it's really easy here since she has a quick release. And if you have a dropper post, this is where we want to be, we're talking about right now, setting the saddle position at the height of the dropper post, where your dropper's all the way up. So now Ida, go ahead and ride there. This is what it's going to look like if your saddle's too low. You really can't generate very much force through your glutes or really through your quads, and it puts a lot of strain on your knees. Then I'll have you go ahead and stand up again. So we'll raise her up here. You always want to make sure your saddle's on straight, and then I'll have you go ahead and ride here. And then here you can see at the very bottom her knees going fully straight, and she's having to point her toes, so that's too high, and she's rocking back and forth here. So let me have you go ahead and stand up again. So we're going to lower her down just a little bit, see if we can find that happy medium. Go ahead and ride there. All right, so here we now have a nice slight bend at the bottom of the pedal stroke in the knee. And this is going to be a position where she can generate a lot of power and a lot of efficiency while riding and not put too much stress on her knee or her lower back or her pelvis. So then I'm going to have you go ahead and get off, please. So the second thing we want to talk about with saddle position is the tilt that the saddle is at. So is the saddle nose down, nose up, or level? And on a mountain bike, we want to be slightly nose down. And the key here too is thinking if you have full suspension or not. So this is a full suspension bike. It's going to have a little sag in the rear triangle when you're sitting on it. So you want to go even a little bit more nose down. And the easiest way to do this is making sure your bike is level, on level ground, and then taking a clipboard or some sort of board there so it's easy to set a level, whether it be an electronic level like this or just using a level app on your phone. and see where we're at. So she is 4 degrees nose down. That's about where we want to be with a full suspension bike. We want to be somewhere between 3 and 4 degrees down. If it was a rigid bike, we'd want to be just 1 to 2 degrees down. And the way you do this is there's lots of different adjustments in terms of how the saddle is positioned or attaching to the seat post. And then you want to just, again, be slightly nose down when putting this on. So I'll have you hop back on here, please. And then the other position that we want to talk about with the saddle is the forward and back position of the saddle. So where is it on the rails? And so with Ida coming out here and stopping at the forwardmost position, if we were to drop a line straight down from her knee, we'd want that to be right over the pedal spindle here. And so this you can just do with taking a piece of string and putting a weight on the end, and then stopping here and dropping that down to see again where your saddle is going to be positioned, forward or back. And this is going to set you up for, again, generating a good amount of power as well as efficiency while you're biking without any pain while you're biking. And then the last thing that we're not going to cover today is really the handlebar position. That would involve taking off the stem and making sure that the stem length is appropriate. So are her bars too far out, or bars too far close, as well as the angle of that. But in general, you want to be about a 90-degree angle or less there. So those are just some tips on bike fitting. We do have some more videos on our website, or I'm happy to talk with you either at practice or if you want to email, or if you want to come in for a bike fit too. We do offer a team discount, and in addition to doing bike fitting, we do other physical therapy related things here too. So if you're in need of care, we'd be happy to help you. And we'll see you at practice. Thanks.